economy be affected. A new study says insurance premiums for health care may go through the roof. We'll take a closer look tonight at what happened when a priest kept the secret of a man who confessed to murder, and another man went to prison. The government comes to the aid of Western farmers. Water for now, but is it enough? And ABC's Mike Lee on the road to anywhere tonight, proving their manhood with a leap of faith.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening, everyone. The price of oil went up again today. The international oil cartel OPEC, which produces 40% of the world's oil, has decided to produce 1 million barrels less a day as of September the 1st. And so the price went up 53 cents a barrel to $26.84. ABC's Betsy Stark is here tonight to remind us that so much of so many economies runs on oil.
And since that's so, Peter, the big question today was what impact OPEC's move would have on all those economies. Rising oil prices are unwelcome almost any time, but particularly at a moment when the economy here and economies abroad are so weak. The president warned OPEC today to proceed carefully with its production cuts. Stabilizing oil prices is one thing, he said. Running them up would be another.
Our economy is bumping along right now, and a run-up in energy prices would hurt. And surely the OPEC leaders understand that. I think they do.
High energy prices act like a tax on the U.S. economy, leaving consumers and businesses less money to spend on other things. That's why falling energy prices this summer have been such a relief. The decline of crude oil prices from a high of $32 in January to a low of $22 last week has helped push down gasoline prices from a high of $1.72 a gallon this spring to $1.41 today. Gasoline prices have also come down because refineries produced record amounts of gas this spring. Several refiners are now cutting production to keep prices from falling further.
It's less economic to manufacture, plus there's a huge inventory there that they can rely on.
Economists fear this slowdown at oil refineries, combined with OPEC's cuts, could hit the economy like a 1-2 punch, driving everything from gasoline to home heating oil prices higher again at a difficult time.
I don't think it's OPEC's intention to drive prices way up because they know that could seriously weaken the world economy. But if that happened inadvertently, the consequences would be negative at this time.
Economists say a so-called energy price shock right now could make the difference between a weak economy and one that topples over into recession. The timing of this move is very tricky for the economy, Peter.
Many thanks, Betsy Stark, here in New York. Other top news today, there's a new study which says health care costs could rise as much as 20% next year. That's the headline. The question is why. Here's ABC's John Martin.
In April, a national survey of about 4,000 company health plans showed a projected rise this year of 11%. But this month, analysts at the surveying firm William Mercer say about 50 million Americans enrolled in HMOs are facing premium increases of 16 to 22%.
I'm not sure alarmed is the right word. We certainly expected to see an increase. I think we are a little bit taken aback by the amount of that increase.
What is driving these costs up? Greater demand for highly advertised drugs, some costing 10 times more than cheaper but equally effective drugs. And, says the Health Insurance Association of America, new technology.
In healthcare, new technology adds to the costs. People hear about the new technologies and they want the new technologies.
Another cost factor, higher fees demanded by doctors and hospitals. Already the biggest health plans are raising premiums. The huge California Public Employees Retirement System, which purchases more health care than anyone except the federal government, has announced a 13% increase. And that's not the end of it.
We'll be looking at low double-digit increases for the next 5 years or so.
Not all the numbers are daunting. There are federal projections for 10.5% increases this year and 9.5% increases next year. The difference, the federal projections cover all Americans in all health plans, not just HMOs. John Martin, ABC News, Washington.
In the national briefing today, the major concern for black Americans expressed in a new poll by the State of Black America by the Urban League. 87% of black Americans polled think civil rights are an ongoing concern. 87% think affirmative action programs are still needed in higher education and on the job. And 74% think the criminal justice system is biased against blacks. And despite the fact that HIV and AIDS are spreading rapidly in the black community, 72% say they are not worried about getting the virus that causes AIDS. In California last night, Santa Monica approved a new living wage law. It will require about 40 private employers in the city to pay each of their workers at least $10.50 an hour. That is almost $4 more than the state's minimum wage, intended to keep up with the high cost of living in Santa Monica. U.S. and European officials are warning today that there may be civil war in Macedonia. Thousands of people have fled the northern city of Tetova near the Serbian border after ethnic Albanian rebels attacked. The government says it will launch an all-out offensive if the rebels do not withdraw. The U.S. is getting concerned about the American embassy in Macedonia, and ABC's John McWethy joins us from the Pentagon tonight. How concerned, John?
Concerned enough, Peter, to put on alert in Italy a 50-man Marine Corps anti-terrorist team. The plan is, U.S. officials say, to bring them in first thing in the morning to fortify the U.S. embassy.
And what are officials most worried about?
They are most worried about the fragile nature and isolated nature of the U.S. embassy there, Peter. It is not one of the heavily fortified ones that have been built in the last few years.
So it's not one of the ones that's easy to defend?
Not easy to defend, and they have many concerns about being able to keep the rioters that have been in the streets in Macedonia's capital in the last several nights away from the embassy if they decide to scale the walls.
Many thanks, John McWethy at the Pentagon tonight. The Bush administration has today refused to support yet another international agreement, and that is 5 times since Mr. Bush took office. Today, it was an agreement on germ warfare that was being negotiated in Switzerland. And a lot of people are asking, what's going on here? ABC's Martha Raddatz is at the State Department.
From germ warfare to global warming, the Bush administration finds itself virtually alone against the world.
The officials are very clear that they have a disdain, even a contempt for these treaties.
In 6 months, the U.S. has expressed such disdain for 5 major international accords. In today's case, the rest of the world wanted on-site inspections to be sure that countries are not producing biological weapons. Only the U.S. refused.
In our assessment, the draft protocol would put national security and confidential business information at risk.
On the Kyoto Agreement, it was 178 nations voting in favor of curbing greenhouse gas emissions and 1 nation voting against, the United States.
Same story with the International Criminal Court. The rest of the world wanted a way to track international war criminals. The United States said American soldiers overseas might be open to frivolous charges.
And the U.S. rejected an outright ban on small weapons, too, saying American gun manufacturers might suffer. The Bush administration has found most of these accords fatally flawed.
They're saying that it isn't the process that matters so much as the outcome. Will the outcome better the United States or not? And that should be the first criteria.
There has to be international cooperation on these major issues. Fighting the world instead of working with it, no matter how powerful you are, will not work.
For now, the Bush administration seems content to stand alone. Martha Raddatz, ABC News, the State Department.
Other overseas item in brief today, the U.S. is going to increase its involvement in the war against drug production in Colombia. Officials say there is far more cultivation and production of drugs in Colombia than they had thought. The Italian government says Mount Etna is no longer a threat to the villages on its edges. You wouldn't guess it today, but officials say there is less stress in the volcano. These are today's pictures, but there are fewer dangerous eruptions. The Secretary of State, Colin Powell, went for a stroll in Hanoi today. He's on his first visit to Vietnam since he landed there as a soldier more than 30 years ago. And in India today, the bandit queen was murdered. Poolan Devi was one of India's most controversial figures, a member of parliament who was a notorious killer in her youth. She served time, and then she rose to power as a popular Robin Hood-like figure. She was 38 years old when she was killed. And in Scotland, monkey see, monkey do. This 11-year-old chimp stole his zookeeper's cell phone and for 2 nights made repeated phone calls to the staff. The zoo numbers were stored in the telephone's memory. When we come back, an innocent man finally walks out of prison. Why did the priest protect the murderer? We'll take a closer look at crime and confession. The government finally allows the farmers in Oregon to water their crops. Is it going to make a difference this year? And then at the end of the broadcast tonight, the road to anywhere, a tough way to reach manhood.
World News Tonight with Peter Jennings and a closer look. Brought to you by Aflac. Without it, no insurance is complete.
Relax, we got supplemental insurance.
What are you talking about?
If we get injured and miss work, we're covered for things like lost pay and other expenses with this.
With what?
Plus, they pay you cash. Great, huh?
Who does?
Aflac. Without it, no insurance is complete.
If you suffer from heartburn caused by acid reflux, get Gaviscon. Gaviscon tablets become smooth and creamy, forming a soothing protective barrier that helps keep acid down. Gaviscon, relief from acid reflux without a prescription.
It's LensCrafter's best $99 offer ever. Right now, get a complete pair of glasses with DuraLens, our most scratch-resistant plastic lens for only $99. The $99 DuraLens event. This one you don't want to miss.
You strive for perfection in the kitchen. Wield highly precise instruments. Test things 500,000 times. Work with tolerances of less than 1/1000th of an inch. You could be making a Delta faucet. Precisely crafted and relentlessly refined, Delta faucets achieve perfection in the kitchen. Even if you can't. Delta, beautifully engineered.
Facts of Life by Lysol. Fact, you can run, but you can't hide from cooking odors. Fact, new Lysol Plus Fabric Refresher is the best because it's the only aerosol fabric refresher that kills odor-causing bacteria. Life demands Lysol. That's a fact.
No can, no fork, no grill.
It's the easiest way to a juicy grilled meal your cat can't resist.
New from Whiskas.
I do enjoy the pleasures of the grill.
Yeah, I can see that.
Whiskas, what cats want.
We're going to take a closer look tonight at confession and criminal conviction. In the Roman Catholic Church, it is forbidden for a priest to disclose information which he gets in the form of confession, as in religious confession. And any priest who does so is subject to excommunication from the church. This story is about the consequences of secrecy. A man in New York City has just been released from prison after more than a decade because a priest came forward with a story that exonerated him. Here's ABC's Dan Harris.
Jose Morales got out of prison yesterday, 13 years after he and another man were convicted of murder. Morales was liberated by the testimony of Father Joseph Toll, who told the court that shortly after the murder, a young man named Jesus Fornes admitted to him that he was the man who committed the crime in this park in the Bronx. Fornes has since died, but the priest says he is doing exactly what Fornes would have expected him to do.
And I truly believe that at this moment, 13 years later, I have done what he wanted me to do, and I have fulfilled the purpose that he had 13 years ago.
Under Catholic law, priests are under no circumstances allowed to break what's called the sacred seal of confession. For example, Robert Hansen confessed his early espionage to his priest, who kept the secret despite the fact that enormous national security damage might have been averted. Father Toll, however, insists his conversation 13 years ago with Jesus Fornes was not a confession, merely counseling. Catholic law scholar John Beal.
If it was not a sacramental confession, then there is no reason why he cannot, and at this point should not, come forward to exonerate two innocent young men who are in prison for 12 years now.
No matter what Catholic law says, the district attorney argues Toll is breaking state law. Prosecutors say conversations between priests and parishioners are privileged, the same way attorney-client conversations are privileged. They say Jose Morales should be back in prison. Many legal scholars disagree.
The priest did not break the confidentiality here because the man who went to the priest went in order to figure out how they could let other people know that he had committed the crime.
The priest says he has only one judge, God.
Gentlemen, I've never been at more peace in my life, if that matters to anybody.
Dan Harris, ABC News, New York.
Jose Morales may not stay free. His case is on appeal, and the prosecutors would like to put him back in prison. When we come back this evening, the government says that for now, the farmers are more important than the fish.
Daddy?
Hey!
Why are you eating my Cheerios?
They help lower Daddy's cholesterol. They're good for Daddy's heart.
Whole Grain Oat Cheerios is the only leading cold cereal clinically proven to help lower cholesterol in a low-fat diet.
Cholesterol thing.
Ford says their F-150 is built tough. But our engineers will tell you the GMC Sierra has more horsepower, more towing capacity, and more front headroom and rear legroom. If you want all that from an F-150, well, that is tough. For great offers this summer on remaining 2001 Sierras before they're all gone, hurry to the pros at your GMC dealer today.
I'm every man.
And every woman who ever suffered from frequent, persistent heartburn.
If you've treated your heartburn and changed your diet, but the pain comes back 2 or more days a week, then you may think you know about acid reflux disease.
But there's something about acid reflux that I didn't know.
Over time, that acid churning up can wear away the lining of your esophagus.
I didn't know.
I didn't know.
I didn't.
Now the makers of Prilosec introduced their new purple pill, Nexium. Just 1 prescription Nexium a day gives many people complete resolution of heartburn symptoms.
That could mean complete heartburn relief.
And Nexium is also proven to heal erosions in the esophagus caused by acid reflux. Only a doctor can determine if you have this damage. Other serious stomach conditions may still exist. The most common side effects of Nexium and Prilosec are headache, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. So talk to your doctor and call this number for more information and for a free trial certificate for Nexium.
Relieve the heartburn, heal the damage. It's possible with the new purple pill called Nexium.
The forces of nature are waging a war, and the target is your deck. But Thompson's Water Seal will stop them, because when others fail, Thompson succeeds, protecting your deck like no other, guaranteed. Thompson's Water Seal. It never takes a day off.
I asked my doctor about Lipitor. Have you?
Ask your doctor what Lipitor can do for you and call 1-888-LIPITOR or visit our website to learn more.
Tomorrow, she guarantees her body wrap treatment will take off 6 to 20 inches. But before you book your appointment, you have to see what Good Morning America found out tomorrow.
In Oregon today, the government allowed irrigation to resume for 200,000 acres of farmland in the southwestern part of the state. There has been virtually no irrigation since April because the government is committed to protecting endangered fish. Here's ABC's Neil Karlinski.
In Klamath Falls, where farmers are suffering through their worst drought since the 1920s, water is worth celebrating. But when the federal government opened the canal gates this morning, that brief moment of joy faded quickly.
That's not enough of water. That's like taking a half a cup of water and pouring it in a desert sand.
The water release ordered by the Secretary of the Interior is less than 20% of what farmers would receive in a normal season. Many of the 1,500 farmers here say it is too little, too late.
We also understand the frustration of the farm families in the area. We don't want to have a federal confrontation that would lead to any more problems.
Does your families have water?
For weeks, residents have been in a standoff with federal law enforcement at these canal gates. The water was cut off to farmlands in April under the Endangered Species Act because low water levels in Klamath Lake threatened coho salmon and suckerfish. The result has been devastating. Bone-dry farmlands have turned an entire season's potato and alfalfa crop into so many weeds in the dirt. Losses to the area are estimated at more than $150 million, leaving today's water release as little more than symbolic.
Yes, it will help some farmers, but it's not going to solve the problem.
Farmers protesting outside the canal gates have no plans to leave. They believe today's action represents only one small victory in a greater war over who controls this region's water, the people who need it, or their government. Neil Karlinski, ABC News, Los Angeles.
In the medical file tonight, the Food and Drug Administration has issued its strongest possible warning about OxyContin, the powerful painkiller. The drug is addictive and is being used illegally. Warning letters will now be sent to healthcare professionals. The Centers for Disease Control reports that women are 33% more likely to visit doctors than men. When it comes to having yearly exams and other preventative services, women are twice as likely to see the doctor. And a study in the New England Journal of Medicine finds that psoriasis, a skin disorder which affects 2% of people in the world, can be effectively treated with a new type of protein called aliphaset. When we come back, Mike Lee, on the road to anywhere. On Pentecost Island, they call it land diving.
I've always been a fighter, and I don't like to lose. So when I found out I could lose up to 25% of my bone due to menopause, you bet I was going to fight back. I had a strong ally who prescribed Actonel, our weapon. Actonel can reverse bone loss and helps your bones become more fracture resistant. Only Actonel is proven to reduce spinal fractures in the very first year.
Actonel is a non-hormonal prescription medicine for postmenopausal women at risk for osteoporosis. You should not take Actonel if you have low blood calcium, severe kidney disease, or cannot sit or stand for 30 minutes. Follow dosing instructions carefully. Stop taking Actonel and tell your doctor if you experience difficult or painful swallowing, chest pain, or severe continuing heartburn, as these may be signs of serious upper digestive problems. Find out if you're at risk for osteoporosis. Then ask your doctor if Actonel is right for you.
By this time next year, you can have more fracture-resistant bones. Act now with Actonel.
Toyota Avalon. All you need now is a doorman.
Thursday nights are chilly nights at Ladder Company 55. And when it's Wachowski's turn, it's a 5-alarmer. That means heartburn and gas. These don't have the medicine to relieve both, but now there's new Gas X with Maalox, combining the proven heartburn relief of Maalox with the most powerful gas-fighting medicine around to relieve heartburn and gas fast. New Gas X with Maalox beats the burn and the bloat fast.
Best Western, the world's largest hotel chain, is almost anywhere you want to go. The world's largest hotel chain tucks you in around the globe. With over 4,000 hotels in over 80 countries, the world's largest hotel chain is Best Western, inviting you to get a good night's sleep. Best Western, the world's largest hotel chain. Call 1-800-WESTERN or visit bestwestern.com.
Hi, I'm Steve Dunn, and coming up next on K2 News, first they suffered from mudslides. Now Kelso homeowners discover more hidden dangers. The storm surrounding a Portland School Board member rages on. Tonight, the apology, the reactions, and the call for resignation. And meet a man diving into the Columbia for a swim to stop pollution. It's all next.
Why is this grandmother raising her grandchild with a family of monkeys? Find out what she's trying to make happen on the road to anywhere on World News Tonight.
Finally from us this evening, on the road to anywhere, and tonight we really do mean anywhere. Those of you who've been watching our correspondent Mike Lee these last several days, wandering the globe on his own, camera in hand, camera only in hand virtually, have written to say on occasion you wish you could do what Mike is doing. Question tonight is, would you ever do what the young men do on Pentecost Island in the South Pacific?
The moment you arrive, you realize you are somewhere very remote. The airport runway is nothing but grass. It's also someone's chicken yard. In a tiny village, I was greeted with a necklace of flowers and promised one of the most unusual shows on earth. Deep in the jungle, young men, some of them only teenagers, prepared to fling themselves from a tower 100 feet high. No bungee cords, no nets, The only thing that can save them from smashing into the ground are the tree vines tied around their ankles. It's a centuries-old tradition.
If you come and the two vines they break, it means that you break your neck or your backbones or maybe your legs.
Why do it then? It seems crazy.
No, we believe that it's our traditional thing, so we must do it from year to year.
Land diving, as they call it here on Pentecost Island, is a rite of passage for young boys trying to prove their manhood, and a harvest festival. The higher the dive, they believe, the higher the crops. And now land diving has become an industry. Villagers earn money from tour companies who send foreigners here to watch this ultimate high wire act. Here's what it might look like if you were a diver. There's a time-honored science of sorts to building a land dive tower. The wood, of course, has to be strong so it's freshly cut. And the vines which hold it together and serve as the jump ropes must be supple and elastic with plenty of sap inside. So the weather has to be just right. Otherwise, they might snap. Not to speak of your neck. The construction is a ritual in itself. A trusted village elder carefully selects the vines and matches the divers to the vines they can use safely. Then the ends are shredded to form dozens of small ankle bracelets. It all looked pretty unscientific to me, and risky. Just how risky became tragically clear when Britain's Queen Elizabeth saw a series of dives here in 1974, staged especially for her. It was the wrong season. The vines were weak and they snapped. Diver after diver hitting the ground. One of them later died. A new generation still has its problems. Just 1 ounce too much weight, just 1 inch of dry vine can cause this. He walked away, though he was clearly dazed. Attracted to the danger, extreme sports enthusiasts from all over the world offer to pay hundreds of dollars to try land diving themselves.
They try to ask us to do it, but we're not allowed. We don't allow them because if sometimes they missed all the rules, they will get injured and maybe they die.
Most of the time they celebrate this old rite of passage. Mike Lee, ABC News, Pentecost Island in the South Pacific.
Mike kept a journal during his journey, which you can read at abcnews.com. That's our report on World News tonight. Tomorrow on World News, when is a strawberry not a strawberry? This is about the products that advertise the ingredients which are simply not there. Don't forget Nightline. I'm Peter Jennings. Have a good evening and good night.
ABC's World News Tonight, nominated for more news Emmys than any other nightly news. No wonder more Americans get their news from ABC News.
Robert Durst says the last time he saw his wife was when he put her on a train. Then Kathy vanished. Now the mystery deepens. A mobster's daughter, about to be questioned, is gunned down. Did she know how Kathy vanished tonight?
Connecting you to your world. This is K2 News.
I do believe that Mr. Jackson should resign, and I have said that to him this afternoon.
His apology was not enough. Tonight, some community leaders say Portland School Board member Derry Jackson has lost their trust. Good evening, everybody. I'm Steve Dunn.
I'm Paul Lindman. Good evening. A growing number of community leaders call for his resignation only hours after Portland School Board member Derry Jackson apologizes for his remarks about Jews. Community leaders say it's not enough.
And moments ago, we received this statement from Mayor Vera Katz saying, quote, Mr. Jackson's statement does not cut it. His future is now in the hands of the voters. K2's Dan Tilken joins us now with the latest. Dan?
Well, the key to all this is that a growing number of community leaders do not think Jackson's apology today is sincere or goes far enough.
Derry Jackson hoped this would calm things down.
I sincerely apologize to the Jewish community.
But standing alongside leaders from the Jewish community, leaders from the black community came down on Derry Jackson.
We, the undersigned members of Portland's African American community, wish to repudiate the hurtful comments made by School Board member Derry Jackson. we do so unconditionally.
Just hours earlier, Jackson had tried to calm the anger that brewed from his quotes to the Oregonian, saying Jews